Hello everybody, and thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be taking a better in-depth look at the Balanoptera musculus, also known as the blue emerald crab. Try saying that one 10 times fast. So a lot of people have questions out there about the blue emerald crab. Are they good for my tank? What do they eat? What's the parameters of taking care of them? And overall, just in general, in depth. Just want to know more about the emerald crab and what it is that they do and how it can benefit us in our reef tanks. So it's more commonly known as the emerald crab, but it's probably the most heavily traded crab in the marine aquatic industry. Although the crab can be very beneficial to have in our tank, there are also a lot of debates about the species, its aggression, its feeding habits, its breeding, etc. Therefore, in this detailed video, I gathered all this information about the species based on existing studies, experiments, researches, and experiences of aquariumists. Besides being easy to care for, the emerald crab is one of the crab species known by controlling nuisance algae that we have, particularly known as the bubble algae that we get in our tanks. Our crabs are omnivores, become quite known as a cleanup crew in reef tanks because everybody likes to use them to help get rid of things that have dying or decaying in our tanks, and crabs do a very wonderful job in taking care of those dead and decaying things if we don't get to it ourselves. That's why they're really sought after. But other names for this crab is also known as the green crab, or the green clinging crab, or the jade crab. Some people call it the emerald mithrax crab. But the minimum tank size you should have for keeping this crab in is a 10-gallon tank. It is a very easy to keep. As far as breeding goes, it is very difficult to breed these. The size of these is about 6 centimeters or 2.5 inches. The optimal temperature for these guys is between 24 and 28 degrees Celsius or 75 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. The water salinity, they like it to be 1.023 to 1.025. 2.6 is okay. That's where I usually run my tank at. The optimal pH for the crab is between 8.0 and 8.4. The optimal DKH is between 8 and 12. Nitrates, it likes to be in less than 20 parts per million, just like anything else. I've told you already, it's an omnivore, so it eats vegetation, algae, but it will eat meat. But it primarily does go after usually algae, but it will go after some meat if it's there to eat. The lifespan of these things, they live generally up to 4 years. They are considered safe and they can be aggressive, but usually not. They're not aggressive at all. But these waters, they come from the shallow waters of the tropic western Atlantic Ocean, and as far north as Miami through the Bahamas and Caribbeans, and south to northern Brazil. They are common in reefs and living in rock cavities, corals, sponges, and they can live into a maximum depth of 55 meters deep. That's pretty deep in the water. But the emerald crabs have a bright green color. Their body is flat and compact with hairy legs. The body of the crab is almost flat, allowing it to fit into tight spaces. At the end of its legs, they have pretty strong points. In the wild, they prevent them from being carried away in the current. The biggest of emerald crabs only reach about 6 centimeters, which is 2.5 inches. When they're fully grown. Along with this beautiful coloration and small stature, emerald crabs are also known for their big, strong claws. When they extend them out, the length of the claws is about 10 centimeters or 4 inches long. They can live generally 2 to 4 years. The behavior of the emerald crab, both in the wild and in captivity, They're nocturnal, so it's important that you have the proper rocks and stones within the tank to allow your crabs to seek comfort in the dark corners and crevices in the tank, just as they do in the wild. Once they get adapted to the tank, they can slightly change their night-day behavior. They will come out during the day, and you will see them a lot more. Especially if they're new to your tank, you just dropped them in. They might hide out a lot for first bit, but they will come out and you will be able to see them. So just give them some time, let them get comfortable. Don't chase them around in your tank. Just let them do what they want to do. But in your tank, emerald crabs, they will mainly focus on cleaning your tank with bubble algae if you have it. Unlike some algae-eating fish, these crabs will crawl into tight spaces, eliminating algae basically everywhere. They will be a crucial part in keeping your tank in keeping of your tank cleaning crew. Excuse me. They can be aggressive towards each other, but therefore, if you have a small tank, it'll be better to have only one crab per or pair of the opposite sex. Emerald crabs, just like other crustaceans, they need to molt and grow. With time, they will outgrow their existing shell, the exoskeleton, and they will begin to shed theirs off. This process is called molting. Once that other shell is shed, it is common to think that the crab is dead. But during this time, the crab will hide into the rocks or crevices until a new shell replaces the old one and becomes hard or mineralized. Here's a tip. Do not throw away the old shells. They contain a lot of minerals crabs will gladly eat after some time. Like snails and shrimps and crayfish, crabs also require a lot of calcium for the exoskeletons. In general, molting frequently, growth, and survival of crustaceans are dependent on the diet, the temperature, and their overall water quality. So if you keep all three of these things within check, they will grow quite rapid. As far as determining male from female, it's rather easy to tell the difference between the male crab and the female crab. If you want to know the difference between a boy and girl of the emerald crab, you need to flip them over and take a look at the underside of the crab. In males, the peloton or tonsil or the abdomen, the part folded underneath the crab is narrower, and it kind of looks like a lighthouse if you flip them over. And it's wider and rounder in females. In addition, males have a bit bigger, larger claws compared to the females. Let's see, what else can I tell you about these guys? They're algae eaters. They're green, grape-like cluster of small, green grape-like cluster. If you ever notice that in your tank, that is what they call bubble algae. But that is what the emerald crabs really like to eat. Some people actually put bubble algae in their tank for beneficialness. It's actually not bad to have, but if it gets out of control, the crabs will simply pick up the little bubbles and will sit there and eat on them. It's pretty fascinating to watch. Small crabs are consumed significantly less algae than larger crabs do, of course. But it can be quite dangerous having smaller ones inside your tank with the larger ones, as the larger ones do have a tendency to rip the smaller ones in half because they fight over their shells. But here's some interesting facts. When the emerald crab tears the algae cell apart, the cell liquid that contains juvenile cytoplasmic smears is released into the water. This behavior might contribute to algae dispersal and consequently algae infestation. So basically they consume and spread the algae at the same time. So like I said, they can get rid of it, but if you have a whole lot of the bubble algae in your tank, it's better just to reach your hand in there and just pluck as much of it out as you possibly can. But far as feeding the emerald crab, one of the best and unfortunately the worst things about the emerald crabs is that they're not fussy eaters. Although the emerald crabs are often sold as herbivores, they are actually omnivores and require very little care when it comes to being fed or feeding patterns. Basically, they will eat anything extra in the tank. This may include meaty foods, leftovers, or the algae that grows naturally in your tank. However, it will be wrong to think that you do not require a specific diet because they are scavengers. Although the crabs have been modified, their spoon-shaped claws to feed on both fleshy and algae, they may consume alternate foods offered in the reef aquarium. In fact, if an emerald crab is not getting a supplemental diet, they will start to mess with any coral that you have in your tank. Along with this, they may begin to prey on any smaller fish and shrimp or crab that are in the same tank. People often ask, will the emerald crab go after cleaning shrimp? No, they will not. They ask, will the crab go after fish? Well, if the crab is hungry and if the fish is sleeping, it may reach out and grab it and it may become its little snack. But this is, of course, a small fish, not a large fish. But all in all, they are absolutely 100% beneficial for your reef tank all around. You know, they seem to thrive in water temperatures between 75 and 82, and with a pH of 8.0 and 8.4. So if you can keep that within those parameters, you guys will do very well in the keepings of your blue emerald crabs. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and always remember, happy reefing, happy life.